Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and welcome back to our latest episode of our sports show. As you know, in part three of our sports show, we premiere international events taking place all over the world. Not here in Ireland, but in Europe, the UK, and events that are a sporting attraction. We like to give a variety of sporting events, a global sort of appeal here. And Ireland in the past has been graced by some wonderful snooker players from the likes of Ken Doherty, to the likes of John Higgins in Northern Ireland, some revered snooker players. And snooker has always been a massive interest here in Ireland, and we're always delighted to give it great publicity. And no doubt we have a few representations from our own country, the likes of Anthony McGill, Ken Doherty, all competing to try and make it into the third round of this championship. And a championship held by our special guest this evening, who is the current reigning defending champion of the European Masters. He won the title last year in Nuremberg in Germany, defeating Barry Hawkins 9-3 in the final. He has 5 ranking wins to his name, number 8 currently in the world, a maximum of 4 century breaks as well. He's the one and only the man from Kettering, the one and only Kyren Wilson. And Kyren, I suppose, first of all, defending European champion, that's a nice ring to it.
Yeah, it's great. I was playing a young lad called Ashley Hugill today. And he said, we were talking about the draw, and I said, I'm actually going in as number 1 seed. So, yeah, lovely sort of thing to go into such a big event like that, knowing that you're defending the title and you're going in as number 1 seed. So, I always love playing in Germany. So, yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I suppose in terms of for our audience and our listeners, in terms of the snooker sort of the world sort of series, that in terms of getting around the world, many people would be say, oh well, you play an awful lot of your tournaments in England, maybe the UK is sort of such in Ireland, but you do travel all over Europe, and you do travel to a good lot of parts of Asia as well. It almost, I was looking at it there today, it's almost the same calendar year that a tennis player would have in terms of a professional tennis player in terms of travel. There is an awful lot of traveling in this job as well, Kyren.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. It's we've been starved of it, haven't we? I think COVID put a stop to that for a few years. For me in particular, I'm looking at going to China about sort of 5 times by the end of this year. So in that alone, I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling. But like I say, it's been sort of 3 to 4 years, I think it's been since we were last there, obviously because of COVID. So snooker really missed that side of the world. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to going back over and seeing sort of how things have changed, how snooker is perceived over there. When we were there last, it was huge. So with the likes of, I think it was Si Jiahui, who got to the semi-finals of the recent World Championships. Hopefully it sparked a lot of new interest. And yeah, obviously, I'm really looking forward to getting traveling again.
And Kyren, in terms of these opening rounds, in terms of how you start to look at it as a professional sort of snooker player, do you really pay any attention in terms of who else might get someone in the opening rounds, or who else is drawn? Is it almost irrelevant until you get to the last 16 or the last 8 of the tournament? Then you see who's left and remaining, and then you sort of can weigh up, oh, I can potentially face him. Or these opening round draws in the tournament, but there's a colossus field, and there's so many sort of contenders that are available for the first round. Do you sort of take any notice, bar your own game? Once you finish your own game, go back to your hotel, enjoy, prepare for round 2, see who the draw brings? Do you actually pay attention to see, oh, how did Roddy get on? How did Trump get on? How did Selby get on? Or do you think, well, we'll wait and see come the last 16 or quarterfinal if they're still in it, and then I might pay a bit of attention?
Yeah, I don't really pay attention to it, to tell you the truth. I think if you look too far into that sort of thing, you almost get defeated before you've started. You can't avoid those players. Some of the guys you mentioned there, they're some of the best players in the world. So if you want to be winning these big events, you have to be beating them at some point. So it doesn't matter whether it's early on or late on. You have to try and beat them at some point. I feel like this game, for me, it's almost sort of you against you. If you can sort of get in the right headspace, put the right amount of practice in, you're competing against yourself almost. That's how I feel anyway. But yeah, there's so many good players on tour nowadays. You look at the likes of, Luca Brissell, just become the snooker world champion. Maybe a lot of people probably wouldn't have predicted that. So it just shows you there's lots of opportunities now in the game, and yeah, you can't look too far past the first round at least.
And what do you think, obviously, snooker and so renowned as some of the elder statesmen still tipping around, still pushing around Ireland? Ken Doherty's no spring chicken at this stage. Ken, he's still going strong. He's still competing in these tournaments. But there's also the likes of John Higgins. There's also the likes of some of the Welsh greats as well, still competing in these sort of tournaments. Is it sort of refreshing to see that they're still around? I know they're not going to be around forever, but is it great to still have their sort of them competing at these tournaments, the legacy, and even for the younger snooker players that are coming up that are maybe 21 or 22, taking on someone who's maybe 20, maybe 30 years older than them?
Yeah, I think it's great. For me, I'm 31. And I feel like I'm still learning off those guys. Ken, I think he's probably got the best laugh in the world. So it's great having him on tour and having his banter floating around. And yeah, he's a great guy. But yeah, they're all competing still at the highest level. And for the people coming through, I think it's great to learn off them. You've just seen something similar in the Wimbledon final with Djokovic and Alcaraz. That's a similar sort of story, isn't it? He sort of said how he learned a lot off Djokovic, and I think it's the same for me in particular. Every time I play those greats, they're always doing something a little bit different. They've always found like a new little recipe for success. And it's nice to try and figure out sort of how they've come about finding that and how you can implement it into your own game. And yeah, that's how you sort of, thrive at the top end of the sport. And you have to obviously keep up with the new generation that are coming through.
And tell me, obviously, Kyren, you know him better than most. Wow, what a phenomenon. He's the poster boy of world snooker. He's still going around, and obviously 1 or 2 year defeats in terms of the crucible that's came at his hands. Ronnie's still going as strong as ever. Ronnie is still a formidable sort of task. Is it sort of dare I say, is the fear factor gone these days of playing Ronnie for yourself now, established player who's won many tournaments, or is there still an awful sort of jizz when the crowd get beyond Ronnie and Ronnie gets the momentum and the tide starts to go? Is it very hard to, even to this day, to try and go against the tide when O'Sullivan when everything's sparking for him, when everything, when the crowd are in his corner, when everything's going away? Is it almost trying to take on an avalanche, dare I say?
No, not really. I think sort of one of the positives when you do play him is, you're going to be playing in front of a packed house. I turn professional to play in front of big crowds, to sort of have the TV cameras, to have these big moments. So, that's always going to be the case when you do play him. For me, like I said, he's obviously one of the greats. I try and learn every time I play him, see what's happening, see how I'm handling it. I just enjoy it. I just think it's always a fantastic challenge. It's always a great sort of showcase of where you are in your life and in your career and in your game. So yeah, for me, every time I learn, I enjoy the challenge, and I just sort of, try and go for it. I always try and take them on and give it my best shot.
And Kyren, how's the year been going for you, for some of our avid snooker fans here in Ireland sort of listening in? How has 2023 been going so far for Kyren Wilson? Do you feel you're in a good place heading into defend this tournament?
Yeah, firstly, I wish I was over there playing a little bit more. I love coming over to Ireland. I love hearing all the stories of, like you've just mentioned, the greats of the game. And Ireland has a great history of sort of snooker heroes, if you like. And yeah, hopefully we can obviously get over there and play a bit more in the future. But yeah, I feel like my game's in a really good place. I've had a good break, great family holiday, a stag do that got a little bit messy. So yeah, I've kind of, really let off a bit of steam over the last couple of months, and it's been nice to sort of, the last 2 weeks get my game back into shape. And I had a good little run in the Championship League. They're only 4 frame matches, and I just managed to miss out in the group there. But yeah, I'm quite happy where my game's at, and I'm looking forward to the challenges ahead.
Yeah, and tell me, in terms of the business end of competitions, do elite athletes, do elite sort of snooker players, do you go into sort of a different sort of mode come, say, the last 16, come the last quarter final? Does the whole preparation intensify? How does a snooker player prepare for a tournament in terms of building up his sort of progression from the opening rounds if he keeps advances? Do you maybe add a bit to your workload as you continue to progress in the tournament? In terms of, many people are sort of curious in terms of the downtime. Let's say a snooker player is victorious in the last 16, between then and the quarter final. Does it almost ramp up a different level in terms of preparation, in terms of training on the day-to-day basis? How do an elite professional like yourself, in terms go through the various stages of a tournament? It's always something that I've been curious of.
Yeah, do you know what? I've not found the perfect combination of that just yet. I'm still experimenting. I'm still trying to find what works for me. I think it depends on sort of, the city you're in, the country you're in, the environment you're in. In particular, it's probably not something I would normally do, but I recently got to the final of the Tour Championships in Hull. And I kind of went into that tournament not really expecting anything, because my youngest son had been quite poorly at that point. So my practice wasn't there. I was kind of on a little bit of a free roll. And, each night, I was down in the hotel bar with my brother and a couple of friends, and, having a game of cards, having a couple of beers and just relaxing. But I was still doing the practice in the meantime. But I don't know, maybe with that mindset, it just took the pressure off. So I was able to cope with sort of the amount of pressure you're under whilst you were competing. But, that obviously can't work all of the time. I've done it where at the World Championships, I've put hours and hours and hours every day in, and I've burnt myself out to the point where I just couldn't compete anymore because I'd done too much. So, yeah, I'm not sure. It's a real fine balance of being relaxed and happy with where you're at, but at the same time, don't take your foot off the gas and sort of keep topping up the preparation.
And do you like to take yourself out of the public eye once you go into tournament mode? Do you almost like to sort of take yourself away, apart from family and loved ones, in terms of, and maybe close off the whole everything outside the sort of family home in terms of friends and loved ones until tournament is over, and then get back to normal life? Or do you think that's not maybe unhealthy as a snooker player, that you sort of engage in terms of day-to-day life when you're not sort of playing? Or does tournament mode, is it almost like a boxer that you go into camp, dare I say?
Yeah, no, exactly right. I think again, I've not found the perfect balance for that. I'm experimenting with that as well. I've had family down. My kids are massive snooker fans. In particular, my youngest son Bailey. He's only 5 years old, but every day after school, he's fully kitted out in a waistcoat, bow tie, and he's practicing on my pool table at home. So I've decided to, when I can, try and take him to certain events so he can gain his experience. And, I wish that when I was his age, I had that opportunity. So I think it's fantastic. It's not something I would ever have done in previous years, but I think, the times are changing.
Yeah.
I think it's good to promote the sport to younger people. And, what better way to do it than with your own child? So, yeah, it's a fine balance. Again, you can't do too much of it because you need to stay in kind of job mode. But then you don't want to get too wrapped up because you can go stale and you don't really enjoy where you are.
Yeah, and sort of second last question for you, Kyren. In terms of looking ahead to the remainder of 2023 and into 2024, is there sort of certain objectives that you've sort of set yourself in terms of targets, in terms of where you want to be at certain stages?
Yeah, I've set a few personal goals and a few personal targets, which I'd reveal at the end of the season. I'd like to tick off a few things. I think one in particular, which I don't mind saying, is, I'm quite close to breaking the 400 career century mark. I'd like to do that by the end of the year. I think I'm about 20 away or something. So I think that's just a nice little short-term target. And to obviously go into that elite bracket, there's not many professional snooker players that have managed to achieve that. I know there's more tournaments nowadays, but those little things are just nice little achievements to go to your CV along the way. But yeah, obviously the snooker tour is so competitive nowadays. I think the immediate goal for the end of the season is to make the tour championships, which is the top 8 on the 1 year list. So, like I said, I managed to do that last year. Get to the final of that one. So yeah, obviously it's going to be a very tough, very consistent season, but I'm looking forward to it.
And I suppose my final question for you, Kyren Wilson, and I suppose I have to say, but not look at it in terms of the crucible for you, has been so much heartbreak in terms of being so close to the final, so many semi-final appearances, so many quarter-final appearances, so close on many occasions for you. Is that still the pipe dream for everyone that sets about playing snooker as a young age, everyone across the UK and Ireland, the Sheffield, the home of snooker, to be out playing in a World Championship final in the crucible? You've come so close so far, and were those sort of semi-final losses, were they so gut-wrenching for you? Were they hard almost to come back? Did you have to take a bit of time away from the sport to recover from them? And I suppose that's the ultimate goal for you, is it, to get to a final first of all and experience the final occasion?
Yeah, it's just for me, I wish that it was normal times. It was during COVID, so I didn't have a packed house. You want to walk out to a World Championship final to a rapturous applause from a packed out crucible. So I didn't quite experience that, but the magnitude of what I'd achieved was still there because you're in the World Championship final. And yeah, it's obviously that's the dream. I want to be a world champion. I can't lie to you and say I'm not bothered, and if it happens, it happens. I want to be a world champion. I think I'm capable of being, not just a one-time champion. I think I'm capable of being a multiple world champion. So, I've just got to keep sort of plugging away, doing the right things, making sure the sport is my priority, which it is, alongside my family. So, yeah, just obviously got to keep doing the right things and knocking on the door.
On that note, Kyren Wilson, the defending European champion, heading into Nuremberg at the end of the month. Obviously, the qualifiers and the pre-rounds are on at the moment. No doubt Kyren will be at the business end defending his championship. 5 tour ranking wins. No doubt there's many more. He'll soon reach double figures in that moment. But Kyren, best of luck for the remainder of the year. Obviously, defend your trophy with pride and honour, and hopefully, please God, we'll get to see you in Ireland someday, and a showdown with you and Ken Doherty. It would be something nice to behold in Dublin. But for the moment, Kyren Wilson, stay safe, take care, and God bless, sir.
Thank you very much. All the best.
Cheers, Kyren. Take care.